Hello, rich ones. Welcome to our space. My name is Christine Ishampepe, the Money Mechanic, and I help you fix your finances. I am on a mission to equip Africa's younger population with adequate financial literacy, advice, and strategy so they can journey to financial freedom and live life purposefully on their own terms and to the fullest because money is no more a barrier. I want you to live your best life. The Hot Money Talks podcast is a series of honest, open, and transparent money conversations that will guide you on your journey to financial freedom. Here on the podcast, we believe 100% that financial freedom is possible with the right set of knowledge, the right amount of time, and the right circle of people. Today's episode is episode 7, and you know what they say about 7? They call it the perfect number. I'm so excited that we've come this far. Thank you for staying with me, and I look forward to so many other episodes. Now, today I'm going to be going a bit personal with our discussion today. Today I'll be sharing with us a little of my story before the Money Mechanic, and most importantly, I'll be highlighting a lot about the principles that I have applied and I am still applying to my finances that are working for me, if I may put it that way. Alright, so let's circle back to sometime around, I think, 2019, 2020. I was in the university at the time. And not just was I in the university, I was also a serial businesswoman, if you'd call me that. And what that meant was that I had quite a number of businesses at the time. I think I should do a whole episode on the various businesses I have done, because when I look back at it, I'm just like, OMG, you have done so much, right? At the time, I had a couple of businesses, and so income was not necessarily a problem. Because I had money coming in from one thing or the other at every point in time. However, I had issues spending this money. I struggled with compulsive spending. And when I wrote that letter to a former compulsive spender, in episode 4 of this podcast, that former compulsive spender was me. I used to be a compulsive spender, and that affected the way I spent my money because I spent more than I saved. And then at the same time, I had no investments, and to make it worse, I was swimming in debt. Now, I had this mindset that because I had multiple sources of income, I would always have income to service my debts. And I don't know who's listening to me that feels this way. But then you always feel like, no wahala now. If I do 1 or 2, money go come out somehow. And you keep going into debt. And then to add to all of this, learning about my finances was like the least of my problems. I wasn't even applying myself to learning about it. I was a spender. Now, this is not to say I wasn't saving, right? I was saving. I started saving when I was 5 years old. Started learning how to save from a very early age. But the mistake I was making with my saving was I was saving to spend. I wasn't saving to build, right? And what does this mean? If I saw something and I liked it, I would, of course, be diligent enough to save money towards it. And once I bought it, boom, we're back to zero level. I was not thinking about the future. I was not saving for emergencies. I wasn't saving for investments. Nothing. I was just saving to meet my needs or to buy stuff that I wanted. However, one day, my redemption came. I was reading the book, The Smart Money Woman. And if you've read that book, you know that in chapter 1, she encourages you to calculate your net worth. And I calculated my net worth, which, if you don't know what it means, in your net worth is a calculation of your assets, your liabilities, and then knowing the difference between the two. I calculated my net worth and realized I was in so much debt. Like, I was in so much debt. I'll never forget that day. That day I cried. Like, I cried because I couldn't believe how much debt I had gotten into. And that was my turning point. That was the game changer for me. I told myself that if I continued the way I was going to end up, it was not going to end well. Let me just put it that way. It was not going to end well. And so I focused on paying my debts first. And then I became intentional about my financial choices. I started learning about my finances, reading books, watching videos, reading articles, attending online classes, and started sharing my knowledge with my friends, and then people were commending the stuff I was sharing. They found it helpful. And before you know it, the Money Mechanic was born. Now, this has been a couple of years, and I must say that I have seen tremendous growth in my finances. It's no more the way it used to be. I am still on my journey to financial freedom because, of course, financial freedom is not achieved in a day. And, when I look in hindsight, I wish I had started doing some of this stuff earlier. But there's no room for regret on this journey. You just have to keep going. The moment you find out, that you have a money problem and you are determined to fix it, you just need to get up and keep going. So what are some of these principles that have worked for me? Now I'm going to be sharing them in no particular order. The first one is save to build and not just to spend. I talked a little about that earlier. Saving to build is the mindset that you are saving not just for now. You're saving not just to buy something, not just to meet a need, but you're saving for the future. You're saving with the future in mind. You're saving to be able to take care of emergencies, right? You're saving to be able to invest in the nearest future. That should be the mindset that we should all have about saving. Secondly, have an emergency fund. This has been a game changer for me in my finances because, like I always say, an emergency will not take permission from you before it comes, right? And so it is very important that one has an emergency fund, and this is setting money aside, specifically for emergencies. An emergency fund is also supposed to step in for you if you lose your primary source of income, right? You're supposed to be able to have at least 3 to 6 months of your living expenses saved up so that you can take care of yourself for 3 to 6 months while you find a new job or find a new source of income. Okay. The third principle is that investing is a long journey, and that is why it is important to start early. Many of us grew up with the mindset that investing is for rich people or investing is for our parents, investing is for the older generation. No, investing is for everyone. It is said that Warren Buffett started buying stocks under the age of 10, if I'm not mistaken, and look how far he's gone, right? So investing is a long journey. Fits blow in one day, and with this mindset, it means that you need to start early. So if you are not investing and you're listening to this podcast, my encouragement to you would be that you start now, right? There's a quote I often hear. I may not be able to quote it, verbatim, but it says something about, the best time to plant a tree was yesterday and the next best time to plant it is now. So do with this information what you will. Okay, my next principle is that money is an integral part of life, and that's why I must learn about it. This principle has helped me in so many ways, right? Because I have come to understand how integral money is to life. Money affects every area of your life, and that's why I have applied myself to learning about it. It is because I have applied myself to learning about it that I'm able to even share with you the stuff that I share with you on a daily basis as the Money Mechanic. And it has also helped me in my own personal finance. Another principle is that it is not wealth that brings financial literacy. It is financial literacy that brings wealth. Many times, a lot of us have this mindset that, it is when I start making a lot of money that I will save or I will invest. No, 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 no. You don't wait for that big break. That's if it ever comes, right? To be able to do right by your finances. It is financial literacy that brings wealth, and we must keep that to heart, that it is financial literacy that brings wealth and not wealth bringing financial literacy. That's why someone can win the lottery and win so much money, yet end up in debt after a short period of time. Why? Because they never had financial literacy. Okay, another principle that I love so much is that one source of income is never enough. You must have something that you are doing and another thing and another thing. I mean, if I right now with the way Nigeria is, you shouldn't even have one source of income. You should aim to have multiple sources of income. That has helped me over the years, because the way income comes might not be equal on all levels, but that last one source of your income will bring some money for you, per time and per season. So you must aim to have more than one source of income. Next principle: budgeting allows you have control over your money. I can't even stress this enough. I see a lot of people mock budgeting, if I may put it that way. People say, budgeting restricts them, make statements like, it's my money, so why are you telling me to budget? That's a very, very wrong mindset when it comes to budgeting. Budgeting actually gives you control over your money. It allows you to tell your money where you want it to go to, rather than wondering where the money went to. It helps you with accountability when it comes to your money. Okay, so you are more careful when you spend. You learn how to prioritize your money. You focus on your needs rather than your wants. You take time to actually examine your spending decisions before you make them. So budgeting is actually a form of having control over your money. Then the next principle is that debt is creepy. You heard my story. I got into debt, a lot of debt, and it was such a heavy burden to carry. Debt is very, very creepy, and the creepy thing about debt is the fact that you don't know how much debt you are in until you actually sit down and note your debts down. Because the thing with debt is, right, you just assume that, it was just like an urgent 2k here, then a 10k, then I just borrowed 1000 airtime, from my service provider, and then you just think it's just I'll pay it back, until one day you sit down and actually take stock and you realize you're in thousands of debts, and you're wondering, how did I get here? Debt is very, very creepy and should be avoided as much as is possible. Then the next principle is, I must always think of my future before making a money decision. So this has also helped me in no small way. I have learned that before I make money decisions, I must always consider the future. Would my future self be proud if I made this money decision? How does this affect my future plans as a person? Does this money decision, affect my future plans negatively or positively? Is this a good money decision? So I must always think about the future before making a money decision. Another principle that has helped me is the fact that financial freedom is possible. Financial freedom is possible. And the moment you open up your mind to accept that financial freedom is possible, you open up yourself to actually start your journey to financial freedom. So financial freedom is possible. And the moment you open up yourself, like I said, you're able to take that journey. So don't allow anyone tell you that financial freedom is not possible. It is possible. Yes, it is not achieved in one day. It's a journey, but I tell you that it is possible. Another principle that has helped me is setting goals for my finances. I've learned to set goals. It has helped me to be more intentional about my financial decisions, right? So setting saving goals, investment goals, debt repayment goals, these have helped me so much in being intentional. So if you desire to be intentional about your finances, you need to set goals. You see, when people make New Year resolutions and they say things like, I want to blow this year, I want to be rich this year, or I want to save this year, those are not goals. Those are wishes, right? It is said that a goal without a plan is just a wish. Those are just wishes. When you have an actual goal, and the goal is, that's where you write down the plan. Like, okay, I want to save this amount of money this year. How am I going to get it done? Right? I want to invest this year. Okay, I'm going to commit to setting aside this amount of money monthly, quarterly, or yearly, towards my investment goals. And I won't just set it aside. This and this and this are the things I want to invest in over this period of time. Setting goals. Very, very important on your journey to financial freedom. Another principle is the fact that setting rules to keep me in check is very important. So for me, I have certain rules. Remember, I mentioned earlier how I used to struggle with compulsive spending, right? I realized that because I was a compulsive spender, I used to get into debt a lot. So I had to come up with a set of rules, guiding principles, guiding rules to keep me in check. So, what are you struggling with in your finances? What rules can you set to safeguard some of your financial decisions? And then finally, for me, this is even the most important financial principle I have learned and applied over time. The fact that you cannot fix what you don't think is broken. This is where it all starts, with identifying your money problem. Yes, I'm going to repeat what I said. You cannot fix what you don't think is broken, not what is broken. It is that you don't think it is broken. So many of us are struggling with our money. We have money problems, but we don't see it as anything, right? And so we keep on making bad decisions and moving ahead, and we think it's cool. Until you get to the point where you realize and acknowledge, within yourself that you have a money problem, you will never ever find help for it. So it all starts with vulnerability, just like I have been vulnerable with you on this podcast today. Thank you for listening. I hope this episode has been helpful. And if you found value today, please share the link to this episode with your circle. And remember that new episodes of the Hot Money Talks podcast drop every Saturday, and you can listen to them on your favorite podcast platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. Do well to follow the show on either of these platforms so that you are notified whenever an episode is released. Now, recommendations are powerful, so please tell your friends and family about this podcast so we can go on this journey together. To connect with me on other platforms, do well to follow The Money Mechanic at The Money Mechanic page on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. I hope most importantly that you will take action on your finances today. Sending you love, light, and a sprinkle of money in between.